Hello, this lesson is aimed at GCSE art students to help you with your experiment pages after you've done your artist, responded to them, done your statement of intent, taken your primary photos or chosen your secondary ones, and now you're going to work from them in the style of your artist or as you've explained in your statement of intent. This style is really heavy, brush strokes on a portrait. Hopefully this will help you understand how to do that style. This specifically is the features. As you can see, I've already done the skin tones on this side of the page, left the eyes blank because there might be a reason you're doing that. I'm trying to show you how to be a little bit more experimental rather than just taking a picture of a portrait, painting the portrait, for example. So now we're going to work on the features, and I'm going to show you the process of doing the features. So I've mixed a really pale pink. I'm going to start with the eyeball. I would always start with the eyeball. You have to imagine that you are layering. So what would be the background colour in an eye? If you stripped back the eyelid, stripped back the eyelashes, stripped back the iris, you'd be left with the eyeball. So you start with the eyeball. Really important with the eyeball is that you don't paint it completely white. It will look flat. So I've painted it pinky here, and now I'm painting it over a little bit more white, and then I've just got that effect of it blending from dark to a little bit more pale there. So even though this style of a portrait is heavy and brushy, you will find that features should still be quite refined. So again, I've got a really, looking at my image, it's really quite dark on the other side of the eye. It's a natural instinct to want to paint the eyeball completely white. Certainly this side of the eye is actually quite dark. Using a really small brush. I'm not trying to make it completely realistic, photorealistic, hyper-realistic, but I do want it to be quite refined. Let's put a little bit more light on some areas. But really the trick with the eye is to make the eyeball look like it is round. In order to make it look like it's round, you have to have the different tones in it. So for example, right here on the side of the eye, just made that bit a bit darker so it looks like it's round rather than flat shape. Then I'm going to mix up the iris colour again, so I'm pretending that I've stripped the eye back, taken off the iris, and I'm left with the eyeball. Done that first, and now I'm going to do the iris because that would be what you put on next. So you have to work in layers. So it's green. This is an exaggerated style portrait, so I'm making the green really green and exaggerating all the colours. So you can see, just twist my brush. If you twist your brush and roll it, it makes it more into a point. The brush has lost a little bit of its pointiness. So put some colour at the bottom of that. And usually in an eye, it's darker at the top because the iris is slightly under shadow of the eyelid. So I just put in a tiny bit of black there. I didn't use black at all when I did the skin tones for the other page, but I will with the eye. So really dark at the top here. And again in layers, doing the iris first, and then I'll do the pupil. It needs to be again darker at the top there. So it looks as though it's blending from dark to light, even on the iris, because as I said, the shadow would go onto the top of the iris. The iris isn't just, same with the eyeball not just completely white, iris not just completely one colour. You want to show where the shadow of the eyelid is on the iris. Okay, so now I'll do the pupil, completely black. Has to be neat. So again, just because it's this brushy style of a portrait, your eyes need to have neat, refined edges, and the pupil and the iris is a perfect circle. So you should have a really neat circle. a little bit of white still exposed. Just need to go over that. Now where I wanted it a little bit more yellow, just literally dip my brush in yellow. I'm just going to put some yellow on there and then go over it with a brush, and then I've got some slightly different tones as well. The outside of the iris has a ring around it, it's darker than the inside, so you have to really neatly try to get that edge, darker edge to the iris. Again, roll your brush to try to get a point. It's not a very good brush for this. Check it so you can see. And go around the edge. So, series of layers, starting from the eyeball, iris, pupil, and then you can do the skin around the eye. Darker slightly here. Okay, so then you need to do the skin, because that'll be the next thing. You can't do the eyelashes before you've done the skin. I'm just going to put a little bit of yellow, skin tones blue, yellow, red. As soon as you put in a tiny bit of blue, it will go green, so be really, really careful with that. And get the skin tone. It's gone a little bit greeny, see? More red. That's quite a dark skin tone, so I'm going to use that for where in my picture it's quite dark. It's quite dark here. So I've drawn out the eyelashes so I know where they are, but I'm still painting over them. And now I can mix a lighter version, add some white into it. Just add lighter on the top again. Same with the eyeball, where the eyeball you want to avoid it looking flat, so you've got the tones either side of the white. Done exactly the same with the eyelid. Left it whiter, lighter here. Blend it a little bit, overlapping the lighter with the dark. It's darker on the edges, giving the effect of it being rounded. So if I just darken another colour, because on top of the eyelid there's quite a lot of darkness in my image, so then it will just show that it goes really, really in here. At the top of the eyelid is when it goes inwards. Remember, dark areas are where it goes in. It doesn't matter if it's a portrait, it doesn't matter what you're drawing. A shoe, if you're drawing a hand, it doesn't matter. When it goes in, it's darker. When it sticks out, it's lighter. So something that would be really light is always the tip of the nose, for example. And then I can use that light colour, because it will start to stick out as it goes up. I'm going to use some really light colour to do up here, because I can see on the image. Does really, really help if you've edited your image. Enhance the saturation, enhance the light dark contrast, so then you can see this more easy. It needs to be darker there. My contrast isn't harsh enough there. That's better. It's not harsh enough there. So I'm going to mix darker colour, more red, more blue. Some more of a purpley colour, darker. Put some yellow if it looks too purpley. Use the colour wheel to help you if it looks too purpley. You need yellow. Yellow is opposite purple in the colour wheel, so it's going to tone down the purple, isn't it? So I've got a darker colour now. So now I can add that here. That's better. So now I'm going to have a bigger contrast between the eyelid here. That's really red, so I'm going to put some more blue over it. I'm trying to get that sharpness here, so it's quite contrasting. It's quite dark down here actually as well. Notice, you've got a colour on your brush that's similar to one you need. Fill it in elsewhere. Still going to build up some of the skin, so it starts to become a bit more red down here. And it starts to go a bit lighter as it goes in. Painting in the direction of the face. really dark in here, because obviously that would be in an area that's in a shadow. It would be dark. Even darker. Use your blue tones. Remember, blue tones, the colder tones, are when something is in shadow, because it's colder. Blue is cold, shadow is cold. So I'll outline that there, so it's just a sharper edge. A crease where the skin creases between the eyelid and the skin there. You've just got a sharp line. Blend it out a little bit. Blend it into there. I need some more skin tones here before I can do the eyelashes. So back to that medium skin tone. Maybe it's a bit dark, it's a bit light over the top. So layered. Imagine that you've peeled the eye back to the first layer being the eyeball, and then you built it up. So I'm trying to make it just lighter there. I think I've done it too dark. So I'd go over the top with a lighter tone. So that's just really pinky here. Trying to exaggerate all the different colours that I can see. Pinky here. Really light here, so I'm going to actually try and just leave part of that white, and then there's a really, really dark. I have used a tiny bit of black, blue and red, just to then outline the bottom of the eye. And then over here, get some more dark tones in. Okay, so I'm going to build up the eyelashes. I'm going to use black. And I'm going to use still a bit of red, so it's not solid black because it can kill the colour. So it's a really, really dark browny colour here. Red, black. Roll your brush so it's as neat as it can be, and then be really careful with the eyelashes. People tend to think that they're just lines. A lot of the time eyelashes in a picture will clump together and become one, so I can't actually see any eyelashes here on my picture. I can see some here, so it's still brushy, as refined really as you can make it without losing the brushy effect. So I've got quite a brushy effect there. This is almost like where lots of eyelashes have clumped together. I put a bit of water on my brush, roll it. Should have a thinner tip. Eyelashes are always thicker at the bottom and thinner at the top. A few more over there. They're thicker at the bottom and then thinner at the top. Okay, a bit darker down here again, so just bring that in. So once that's dry, it's goes a bit more red toned towards here. So make sure you exaggerate everything just as you would with the skin tones. Don't lose that when you're doing the eye. You know, exaggerate the fact that it's redder here rather than darker here. Put some more red tones in there, but really exaggerated that. And when it's dry, you can then add your lovely reflections in, which are just one of the most satisfying things to do with an eye. So wash your brush, dry your brush, make sure that it is, actually I'm going to use this brush because it's cleaner and it's got a better point on it. So I'm going to use white, and I'm going to make sure it is the purest white I can get. And then I'm going to do my reflections. I'm going to layer it so it's as bold as I can possibly make it, wherever it is white on the eye, and then it makes it come to life. Not always just in the iris. There's water in the eye in different areas, if that's caught the light here, for example, then it would be really white here. You see, actually I needed to make it darker here so then the white will stand up. So wash my brush, clean my brush, tiny bit of red on my brush. If I put that in there. And then let it dry and then put the white over the top, then the white will stand out more. So that needed to be, you can see, more red. Okay, I'm starting to get the effect of the eye there. So I'm going to do the other eye and start to build out some of the skin tones and then do the eyebrows. And I'll show you how to do the eyebrows. We'll just pause, we'll do the other eye. Okay, so I've built up some of the skin tones. Just to remind you, when you're doing skin tones around the eye, you want to be working around in almost a circular motion, because then you've got the brush strokes rounded around the eye in the same way the skin would curve around the eye in that direction. So I've done it rounded and just refined areas in that eye as well. I've not done all of it because negative space does work really well with this. I'm just going to add some of those reflections again, so you need a really, really clean brush, and I just wanted that reflection in there so it was white there, so you've got that look of the eyeball looking quite wet. And also here, let's get it so it's not completely white, this eye has a reflection that kind of goes over it all, just here. Okay, so white layers have almost covered most of that eye really, and there's a lot of white there, so that one's really in a reflection. Okay, so I'm going to do the eyebrows. So the eyebrows, it's really, really important to make sure that they have different tones in. So I'm going to start with a basic reddy browny colour because that's the colours of the eyebrows. And you have to have the skin done first, obviously, so you can then brush over the top of the skin and get that colour. So same with the skin, make sure that you're painting in the direction of the eyebrows. So eyebrows tend to go this way when they're here, and then they go down when they're here. So I've started with that reddy colour. And then when they're here, they flick up a bit, again over the skin. So then I've got that shape. Doesn't look effective when you've got eyebrows that are all one colour, because they're just going to look flat. So now I can put darker colours in, really, really dark, reddy colours. Still want to see, using really the tip of my brush, because obviously your brush is made from hairs, so it's naturally going to have that hair effect. So when you're drawing hair, it really is an advantage that that's how your brush is made, because you've naturally got that effect of it looking like hairs. So flicking it out, using the tip of my brush to have that, and leaving some so you can see some of the hairs overlapping the skin individually. I'm just going to leave it lighter there, a little bit darker underneath. Now I think I've made it a bit thick here, so I'm going to get that really pale pinky colour that I've got underneath the eyebrow there anyway, and just go over it. Just thinned that out a bit so it looks a bit thinner, and then I get that over and go back over, because I want my eyebrow to look like it's going over the skin, not the other way around. Same with the other one. I've put that base colour down of the eyebrow, or above the eyebrow, sorry, the skin, and then I'm just going to put the brushiness over. This eyebrow is darker because it's on the side of the face where there isn't as much light, but it just still needs different tones. So there's some more reddy colours here. As long as you've done it in the direction of the hairs, then it will work. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to work on the nose. start to mix some colours up to make the nose look much more refined. Okay, so to start the nose, I'm going to start putting in the lighter skin colours, and I'm going to carefully do it in the direction of the shape of the nose. So that would be straight, that would curve. Then it goes a little bit more orangey at the top. So I want to just exaggerate that colour of the orangey tone. I'm putting that in here. Again, that's because my picture is edited so I can see all the tones easier. So if you edit the saturation, it's going to be much easier to be able to do this. And then it's actually really quite red on the side here. Just there. And then really, really pale. So wash your brush if you want it to be really, really pale, because your dark colours are going to overwhelm the white. Really pale and the tiniest little bit of red in the white. I can get the tip of the nose because it will be probably not pale enough, so I'll layer it with a bit more white. It will be the one of the lightest areas in a portrait. So build that up. It's a bit darker pinky tones coming over it. As it's starting to go out here, I'm then painting that way. It's going out in that direction. Remember, where it's slightly in shadow, then you need blue tones. It obviously still appears greeny, purpley, blue tones. I outline that there carefully. I think that should have been more green, so put my yellow in it. Outline that. So I've got a sharp shape coming down around where the shadow is, and even around here, because that's the darker side of the nose. Just getting that shape. Probably need even more blue, just to exaggerate the fact that that is in shadow. Bear in mind that blue is your cold colour. So blue, 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 more blue coming around there. And then you can use black or really, really dark colour. Just get your nostrils in. Make sure that you've got a neat brush, a fine tip when you're doing the nostrils. They should be really, really neat, sharp and refined. Quite a sharp line in there. Side angle nose is difficult because you've got this nostril which you can't actually see. It's more of a line than a circle and a hole. This one's a bit easier. Okay, go down there. So I need to make this darker on this side, but it's not as dark as the inside of the nostril. So it needs to be more of a browny, reddy colour. A bit of the blue in. So it needs to be sharp. Actually, that's quite dark down there as well. Starts to be dark down there where the shape of the lip starts to form. It's all dark down there. Starts to get a bit yellowy with the skin tone. A bit more like yellow tone in. So actually this little bit of the nostril is really, really blue toned. Let's get my blue. I have a pale blue tone. Almost overlapped it a bit too much with that colour there, so I'll just go back over it to get that little bit of the nostril in. And then I need to outline that to differentiate the nostril from that skin here. So get a dark colour. Just outline it. So I've got that shape in there again. And then get a few of the lighter tones in. So it was quite light here. Light shine on the tip here. You can see it's starting to form the shape of the nose. It depends how loose you want it and how refined you want it. Possibly need to add, and that's why experiment, because you could do a page of noses where you refine them more and more each time, or you loosen them more each time, but you've shown that you've tested with different ways of different styles and ways of how to form a nose. So this is just one quite brushy, quite loose style. Really pale, not a lot of paint on my brush at all. I'm just flicking over to give the illusion that the paint is blended. Okay, so it forms the shape of the nose. Alright. Okay, so moving on to the lips. The main trick with the lips is to make sure you've got it really dark running through and then dark underneath. The worst thing you can do is outline the lips, like lip liner. So I'm going to start to just build in the pinky colours of the lips. This side of the lip is darker, so I'll add a bit of white into my colour because it's lighter on that side. So there is a slightly dark outline to the lips, but it's broken. I'll show you what I mean by that if I just get that dark outline. So I'm mixing a red colour, show you here, really dark. Bit of blue, so it's purpley. So along this side of the lip here, and then I'll just brush it into the rest. Really using the complete tip of your brush so it's thin, slightly darker there. And then there's a wash my brush, dampen my brush a bit so it's damp, and then because acrylic's still wet I can just blend that in, and then I'm not left with, you see I've just blended it a bit, then I'm not left with an actual outline that's slightly more blended. And now I just want to exaggerate the fact that this lip should be dark, or that side of the lip should be darker than that side, so I'm just going to make that darker here so you've got that contrast. It blends a little bit here. It's still brushy, but it's just more refined than if you were doing skin tones. Okay, so there's a really pale part of the lip at the bottom. So a nice paley colour here. So same as the eye, you're going to try and layer back, and to start with, you've just got the colours in the actual lips, and then you'll start doing the outlines around, so colours. And I'm going to leave it white where there's quite a big reflection on my photograph. I'm going to leave it white. So I'll use quite a bold red, dark bold red now for some areas. So starting to build up the darker tones. Probably needs to be even darker than that. Well, there's little areas where they're slightly brighter. Then I'm going to use black. Mix it with red so it's not black that drowns all the other colour. This bit is really dark, and that bit's so important because that's when it goes in, and it's going to show that. And then I've got the line of the lip, and here really dark, and dark coming round here, and starting to now paint in the shape of the lip. Slightly down there, slightly lighter now. Here, slightly redder, but still really dark at the bottom of the lip. But these lines are all broken, they're not a solid outline that's just going around the whole edge. So that would look flat, it wouldn't look like 3D shape. Right, just need some more Okay, now I'm just going to exaggerate the red tones in there. Quite bright here, here. So I'm building up around the really dark outlines that I've done, the dark line going through here, building up around that, building up around that. And then just getting some darker colours under the lips, because that's where the lip would form a shadow on the skin. That went a bit too dark, so just lightened it a little bit. It's still brushy, it's still messy, but you're starting to get the shape of the lip. Then, as it starts to go out into the skin, you need some blue, more greeny tones, because again, it'll be in shadow, and when it's in shadow, use cool colours. So I'm using a little bit of red in my greeny colour, because I don't want it to be bright green. Always try and mix your colours, but it's still a greeny tone underneath here, underneath the lip. And then you start building it out into the skin. But really, really, really important part of the lip is actually the skin underneath the lip, because it shows that this sticks out further than the skin. So it's creating that 3D effect, and it needs to be really dark under there, so I'm adding a bit more blue to make it dark underneath the lip. I'll give the effect that that's darker than the lip itself, and therefore lower, not sticking out as much as the lip. It's quite a nice blue area just under the lip as well here. So then those blue tones are going to contrast against those pinky tones that we've used in the lips, which will be quite nice. Okay, build up a little bit of skin tone around the lips, and then we're done. Okay, so I've built up the skin tones around the lips, and it makes them look much more 3D. One point I just want to make, because it's really, really important, is above lips you usually get this light line. It doesn't just go lips and then into the skin. You've got this light line where the light has caught the top of the lips. So really, really light there. I've left areas white that I wanted it to be really light, and you can see the shape of the lips there and how important that dark line there is, and the dark shadow underneath the lip is, and the fact that it's lighter there. Hopefully your palette will look something like that, because you'd have that much variation of colours in there. The more variation of colours, the more interesting a painting will look. Okay, hopefully that's helpful for you. Thank you.